The cornea is the large part of the eye's ability to see clearly. However, in some patients, this inner lining part of the eye may become cloudy, leading to vision loss, and doctors may recommend a corneal transplant to restore vision. In this episode of Health Digest, we take a look at how willingness to donate eyes plays a critical role in facilitating treatment among these patients. They say eyes are the windows to the soul. But for a lot of people, that window develops an unwanted curtain that dims their lives and makes everything dark and cloudy. This obstruction to the normal functioning of the eye often elicits an array of emotions at the thought of one losing the ability to see. As the cornea, that transparent part of the eye that allows light to enter the organ, gets clouded, vision slowly disappears, leaving the patient to start life in a new, dark, unfamiliar world. Sometimes these complications may be aggravated by conditions like allergies, just like in 18-year-old Joshua Mogambi's situation. Mogambi underwent a corneal transplant in August this year after unsuccessful management of allergic reactions that left him with itchy eyes that would constantly force him to rub them in order to ease the discomfort.
I was born as a normal child, full of healthy insight. By the age of 7, when I was reporting into school, that's where my changes occurred. And when I started reacting with itching, that it was so worse, that ngejikuna. So after some times, that's where my grandma and my mom took a decision to take me to hospital.
Several rounds of treatment to manage the allergies were not successful. The itchiness persisted, and not even the spectacles that some of the doctors I visited recommended seemed to alleviate his suffering.
Medicines or the eye drops, they never brought a change into my life. So the itching was continuously until the time where my eyes decrease. I could not see like normal, open my eyes like this. So the pandogo. So and changed my position of walking. So I could not walk like facing forward as a normal human being. Ningebidi niwe kichwa like this so that I can see, because nikiweka kichwa hivi, the only place I can see is under me, under my nose.
And so, like many patients who feel let down by conventional medicine when their condition worsens despite several trips to the hospital, his family resorted to herbal medicine to remedy his condition.
I used herbal medicines from Thailand, and there was no change still. Yeah. I used different types of herbs. Even almost going to witchcraft, so if they can do some change. But there was no change. Yeah.
So these herbal medicines, how are they being used?
I was boiling them. They were sticks. So I was boiling them, and then I wash myself with them, the face, every morning before I do anything. And the other ones I could chew.
But his sight was slowly deteriorating, and with each passing day without proper diagnosis, he was slipping into a dark world, an uncharted territory he dreaded to venture into, but which now was so near. His school life was not spared either, and learning became a challenge until a teacher noticed that he was struggling to read what was written on the board.
When they saw me struggling to see, because the way I was using to read, you cannot imagine. I used to put close books like this so that I can see. Like, if I say I could not see in the blackboard, most of my times what I could use is my ears to listen. Because if I see in the board, I cannot see anything. So it never worked for me. So that teacher called me in the office and told me that there's a hospital I wanted to go and check out and see, because he had a change.
For Mugambi, his fate seemed to have been sealed. He had lost hope in any form of treatment and was just waiting for the dark day to arrive. While at it, he says he would maximize on the short time left before his eyes denied him the opportunity to capture the world around him. But as fate would have it, the treatment options for his thinned cornea as a result of relieving his itchiness through rubbing were not exhausted, and so this young man still had a chance to save his sight.
When I visited this place, I registered and I started treatment. That's when I was checked there to read. And I saw that it's a normal thing that I'm used to doing, like in Kikuyu. So I used to say, it will end up like the way they used to say, allergy. So by time I was going through testing the machines, checking, reading, and a point came where I was told to go test for topographic to see my vision and how much I'm affected. So that's where I paused and said, they have started again. So this will start test and then end allergies. So I stayed like 1 month without doing that test. But I came and noticed that life is about me. And sometimes you need to make a decision for you to transform your life. So that's where I took a chance and wrote myself and I did topographic. I can say I was afraid because I never knew the type of machine.
A 2-hour surgery to graft a donated cornea gave Joshua a new lease of life. But he is not alone in this new journey. Victor Jumba from Vihiga County is also a recipient of cornea transplant. Eye allergies also got him here after several attempts of trying to rid his eyes of the discomfort from the itchiness.
Nilipelekwa hospitali, nikapimwa, nikapewa miwani. Nilijaribu kutumia miwani, lakini ilikuwa inafika mahali sasa miwani inafika mahali macho sasa inakataa, siwezi kutumia hiyo miwani. Tena nikirudi hospitali nabadilishiwa miwani.
Jumba underwent a cornea transplant surgery in June this year, and part of his recovery process entails strictly adhering to medication in a bid for the transplanted graft to serve its intended purpose.
Hizi ndizo dawa natumia. Hizi. Lakini sio zote. Kuna moja kwa nyumba, yenyewe na apply kuweka usiku. Hiyo naweka tu usiku peke yake. Sasa naanza na kuweka na hii, alafu naweka hiyo. Nafuatisha hii. Hii wanaweka ya mwisho. Naweka drop moja. Asubuhi nikiamka naanza kuweka hii. Saa 2. Nikishaka saa 2, baada ya dakika 5 naweka hii. Baada ya dakika 5 naweka hii. Baada ya dakika 5 nyingine naweka hii ya mwisho. Haya. Hii naweka after 2 hours. Asubuhi, saa 4, saa 6, hivyo, saa 8, saa 10, saa 12 na saa 2.
To the ordinary person, adhering to his strict routine might seem like a challenge, but to Jumba, his phone alarm often reminds him when his next eye drop is due.
Nimeset alarm. Sasa siwezi, kwa sababu vile niliambiwa daktari, sifai kumiss hata kidogo. Nisikae bila dawa. Ikiwa karibu kuisha, heri nione vile nitafika hapa haraka sana nitafuta dawa. Kwa sababu uko nyuma na saa hizi, alafu nifikirie kama narudi huko nikose kuona. Hapana, siwezi kubali. Sasa lazima nifuate maagizo ya daktari.
It is one thing to undergo surgery and another to sustain the precious foreign corneal tissue that is hard to come by. Whereas the National Health Insurance Fund NHIF caters for the cost of surgery, the patient has to bear the cost of post-transplant medicine and care, which to many is costly.
Sasa nikikuja visit, nafaa nikuwe na 1000 ngapi? Hizi dawa 4-5 around 3,500. Consultation fee inaongeza 2,000. Hii inakuja 5,500. Hiyo ni pesa unafaa kama nikikuja visit nikuwe nazo. Na sasa Niambie sasa, umeshatibiwa, umeenda kwa nyumba, una kazi, unafaa utafute pesa kuja. Unaona sasa inakuwa hard kidogo.
Despite these financial hurdles that come with the high cost of medication, the transplant seems to have brought his world into focus. McKenna Nkatha, on the other hand, can only wait and hope for a donor to give her the living gift from the dead. She has been on the waiting list for the past 4 months, and each passing day seems to take with it a little piece of the little hope she's still holding on to of her vision ever being restored.
The wait is very long because in 2010 I was told I needed the transplant, and they told me it's going to take a lot of time. That's why I consider the lenses. Most of the time I feel like giving up. Like literally I've given up because I've waited for so long, and I think the more the wait is happening, the more my sight is getting even worse. Like you can see right now, my eyes are very lazy. So it gets worse, and I'm really hoping that I'm going to find a donor soon.
The 27-year-old, just like her counterparts who have undergone surgeries, hopes on a donor for this precious commodity that is grafted in a delicate procedure that is often non-invasive.
So one thing that really wants me to undergo this transplant, there's this question, a very irritating question, and most of the people don't know it's irritating. You see, like when I'm using my phone, I have to bring it close to my eyes, like that distance. So someone will be like, Kweni huwani, mbono unaweka simu karibu? And you can start explaining to someone that you have a condition and you have to undergo a transplant. And something is, okay, at work, you have a lot of challenges. You have deadlines to beat, you have reports to make, and you can't take a lot of time on your laptop because it's going to affect. And again, you see, I'm straining to see. So that really, it's very time consuming.
Christopher Mwangala is an ocular and bath tissue retrieval specialist at Lion's Sight First Eye Hospital in Nairobi. He explains that cornea donation remains low in the country, impacting on treatment of patients who need urgent transplant. The number of patients in need of this transplant is high, yet those pledging to donate after death remains low.
The reception to donation is poor, very poor. Currently, all the corneas that we're getting from the Asian community, actually, not from the African community. This is because they are mostly, it's affected by culture and beliefs. So many in our culture, you see, many people don't donate because of the either burial incidences, maybe religious. Some of them are, they say they don't want to use their eyes after they die. There are myths which block these donations. So on the reception of cornea donation or generally organ donation, it's poor.
For instance, as of the month of August, only 8 retrievals were done against a list of over 900 patients waiting to receive a transplant.
So we usually get like from July, we did like 10 retrievals. August we did like 8. If you in terms of corneas, that are 8 are 16 corneas. So you get one donor, those are 2 corneas, and then those are 2 patients you utilize in case you analyze the corneas. So it depends with you can do 8 harvests, but then the process of verifying whether the cornea is fit for transplant, you do all the tests, disregarding the faults and everything. You end up using maybe 4 corneas out of those 16 corneas. So not every cornea is suitable for optical purposes. Some are just for therapeutic or something.
Most of these donors are often people above the age of 70 years. To complement this low number of donated corneas, the hospital has to import the organs from United States of America or Italy in order to meet the high demand.
If you get a cornea, most of our donors that we get usually from 70 and above, actually, from the Asian community mostly, 70 and above. And then these corneas, we do cell count. Maybe they can't fit to be utilized on a recipient form 10 and below. You see, we need a younger cornea for this. So mostly these we get a certain donor from a certain age, like 70 and above usually, prioritize something from 40, patients from 40 to receive the corneas. It will be easier because of the time is going to utilize on the cornea and the response.
According to Mwangala, children make up a huge number of those in need of cornea transplant at the facility.
What causes this mostly, we get the patients usually have severe keratoconus, the thinning of the cornea due to allergy. You see, and this is something that you cannot avoid. You know our schools the way they are. You know our homes they are, so they are affected. So most of these patients are children. So you find at least most kids are not able to do exams. They're not able to write, to see. And then getting the younger corneas is an issue, so they'll have to wait until they reach a certain age. Like you might, like a patient from 5 years, you see at times is being done a transplant at maybe 17, because the cell comes from the cornea that we harvest usually fit from that age bracket.
These corneas have to be harvested at least 6 hours after death when the cells are still fit for use. But the deceased has to consent before death through a platform that identifies them as donors.
First, we don't restrict anybody from donating. Everybody is eligible for donating the cornea because the cornea practically doesn't go with blood matching or something. It doesn't have a blood supply, so it's you can transplant it on any recipient, and then it will respond.
However, blood tests have to be conducted to determine whether the deceased is fit to be a donor.
What makes us reject the cornea depends with the medical history and the time of the death to, we call it death to preservation time. So in case somebody has pledged and died, what we usually do, we usually supposed to come within 6 hours, because the cells usually die after 6 hours after death. So that if it's past 6 hours, then we can only retrieve the tissue for research. Then we usually reject other tissues in case of any of these chronic illnesses, HIV, hepatitis, syphilis, hepatitis C also. So those are the main conditions that we reject on arrival, since we are able to know the history from that patient, from the patient who had donated, from the donor actually.
Note, the entire eye is harvested unless the deceased or their family gives consent for that.
So on harvesting, we usually we don't touch the cornea itself. We usually cut the cornea, including the sclera, the white part. That's called the cornea sclera button. So the cornea blood plus the button from the sclera, so that we just don't injure this part, because this is the way actually it's like the windscreen. So if we do any damage to this infection and everything, then the cornea cannot be utilized.
The corneas have a short shelf life, but due to the high demand, they are often utilized.
Once we retrieve within 6 hours, tuna preservatives, preservatives, it takes 14 days in these preservatives. Within that time, you're supposed to use some preservative, it expires, hence it sustain the cornea.
Most of the time, the eye bank does not have corneas, as patients who die with good corneas are buried with them, yet they could benefit somebody like Nkatha, who is at risk of losing her sight, yet the blindness can be prevented through a transplant.
If you're willing to donate, I think it really helps someone like me, because I'm relying on a donor, and it's not like something that you're forced to do. It's something that should come within you, giving.
For Mogambi and Jumba, they may never know who their donors were, but through the corneas they donated, they are now able to at least see life from a different perspective.
Then I was like shocked that someone died and gave me something. What I felt like, I wish I was there to say thank you. To say thank you because they have done something that most of people cannot do.
Ule mtu ambaye alidonate simujui, simujui na yeye anijui, hata sijui ilitoka wapi, lakini it is through donation. Mtu ukidonate utakuwa umesave maisha ya mtu, masomo ya mtu, familia ya mtu, watu watakaa wana furaha kwa sababu ya donation. Kwa sababu kama mimi saizi nashukuru tu kwa sababu ile hali pale imefikia saizi, hali si mbaya, hali iko sawa saizi. Hata kama ni jicho moja, lakini nashukuru kwa hiyo. Wakati huo nikilinganisha saizi na kitambo, hata wakati huo nilitoka kufika kwa nyumba nikashindwa, hata nikauliza rafiki yangu, hivi ndivyo huwa mnaona? Mnaona tu vizuri.
Dr. Deepak Gupta, a senior consultant who specializes on cornea, cataract and glaucoma treatment at the facility, calls on Kenyans to play their corneas to help save sight, considering its success rate is put at 90%.
The center of this part is open. This becomes black in color because it has got an opening. So normally this part is the part which is harvested and carried in a special medium. We have like Loyens Eye Hospital is one of the few hospitals which has got cortisol, which has got a special medium. We carry this cornea and the cortisol, and in cortisol, if this tissue remains in the cortisol, we have 10 to 14 days for the patient to be called and implanted into another man's eye.
A pair of corneas, it says, can go a long way in helping restore the sight of many patients.
The center of this part is open. This becomes black in color because it has got an opening. So normally this part is the part which is harvested and carried in a special medium. We have like Loyens Eye Hospital is one of the few hospitals which has got cortisol, which has got a special medium. We carry this cornea and the cortisol, and in cortisol, if this tissue remains in the cortisol, we have 10 to 14 days for the patient to be called and implanted into another man's eye. The benefit is, if only half of the thickness is involved, we will not remove the whole eye. We will just remove the upper half and replace with the upper half of the donor eye. The benefit is, if we get one eye, we can transplant it to the two eyes. The donor cornea is split into two. We have got specialized techniques like donor cornea is split into the front half and the back half. Certain people need front half which goes to the top. So it is stitched nicely and the top half is removed and top half is replaced. Certain people, they need the back side of the cornea is unhealthy. That can be, I'm sorry for the bad voice, it can be Fuchs dystrophy, or sometimes the patient has gone a bad cataract surgery, the inside of the eye is spoiled, so we replace the back half.
After surgery, the recovery can take up to 1.5 years before the patient can regain their sight fully.
First, sometimes like patient has got a cut or patient has got a corneal ulcer. These are the obvious, even with a torchlight, these things are visible, that cornea is spoiled, and only thing we have to look is how much of the depth of the cornea is spoiled, like half of the depth or the full depth is spoiled. I'm coming to that, why we look for there's a special way we use this kind of machine. This is called slit lamp. We come to know that whether half depth or 3/4 of the depth, this has got a thickness. We see how much of this thickness of this cornea is involved.
The first 2 weeks post-operation, however, are considered critical in the patient's healing journey. And it is during this period that they also experience side effects of the procedure.
The benefit is, if only half of the thickness is involved, we will not remove the whole eye. We will just remove the upper half and replace with the upper half of the donor eye. The benefit is, if we get one eye, we can transplant it to the two eyes. The donor cornea is split into two. We have got specialized techniques like donor cornea is split into the front half and the back half. Certain people need front half which goes to the top.
Although organ donation remains a thorny issue in Kenya, corneal blindness remains the second most prevalent eye condition globally, and to rehabilitate the impaired vision, a corneal transplant is the best shot. So, if you can pledge to donate your eyes or the tissue itself after your death, please do so. You never know who might need it next. Gloria Milimu, KTN News.